भगवान श्री योगी रामसूरतकुमार की जय। सर्वं योगी रामसूरतकुमारार्पणमस्तु। Bhagwanidam. Okay, forget. This evening, we have been able to sing once again the Divya Nama, the powerful Nama of Bhagwan Yogi Ramsuratkumar, together, which is no small grace. Let us be thankful to him for this great gift and go ahead to see how this Nama helps, especially his work. Didn't he say time and again how the Nama helps the person who does the Japa and the relatives and the world and his work, his father's work? We can understand how it helps us and the immediate people around, and of course even the world. But how does it help his father's work? What exactly is his father's work? Did any of us ever understand fully what it meant? Whenever he spoke about it, none of us had the courage to ask what it was all about. But the earlier times, in the 70s, early 70s, he had talked about it to some foreigners, especially Taylor Wadlington. Bhagwan was drawn to Shri Aurobindo's principles. Shri Aurobindo wanted to uplift the consciousness of the entire world to a higher level, and Bhagwan also believed that in course of time a race of supermen could be born. Certain groundwork had to be done for that, and Shri Aurobindo was fully engaged in that. And Bhagwan had spoken about it to some people, that he was drawn to this, to uplift the consciousness of the entire humanity to a higher level of evolution. We all know individually how difficult it is to lift one's own consciousness to a higher level. It takes a lot of sadhana to purify one's own consciousness, which is otherwise filled with all kinds of desires for the world, for the worldly things. It is a very tough task, and Bhagwan was very busy with that. He said, Meeting people and blessing them was only a small fraction of his father's work. He often declared he lived only for father's work, that he was doing his work to the entire satisfaction of the Divine Father. He did not bother what others said about his work. If anybody asked him if he was happy, he would say, it doesn't matter if this beggar is happy or unhappy. It doesn't matter if this beggar is healthy or unhealthy. What matters is doing Father's work to his satisfaction. And he often ended it with the declaration that his Divine Father was very happy with his work. Sometimes when the task in hand was so difficult to handle that he complained to his father, Father would say, no, there is no one else to do this kind of work except you. You have to do it. This also Bhagwan had told me at times. We do not really know what was involved in his father's work, except, of course, superficially. All the hints that he had dropped now and then. But it gives us a teaching. We are here, we have come to Bhagwan, we have taken him for our Guru and taken refuge at his feet. All that he said was, you chant the name of this beggar, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, and you would be helping my father's work. So let us just obey without questioning the intricacies involved in that. Enough to know that it would please Bhagwan if we chant the name sometimes at least. We are given 24 hours a day. Even half an hour or 1 hour, if we could chant for the sake of his father's work, how happy he would be. It would automatically help us also, help our relatives, the people immediately around, and the world. It doesn't matter, like I said yesterday, Bhagwan said, don't ask for anything. Very difficult, especially when we live a life with interaction with people and situations. If we don't call out to him, we would be going after people. It's better to appeal to the Divine and leave it to the Divine to arrange for what we want. So we should ask our Bhagwan if we want anything. There is nothing wrong with that. It is very natural. But after that, whatever he does is the best for us. It's what he has given, and that would be the best for us. But we must remember his name continue to remember his name, knowing that it's going to help his father's work. Now today we shall have another glimpse of Bhagwan through the mind of Shri Venugopal of Tiruvannamalai, his experience. His job in Tiruvannamalai is to collect the produce of the farmers and market it. He has a mandi here, what they call mandi, where they collect the produce. And sell them. He says that when he was 6 or 7 years, he had come to Bhagwan, he had met him. At the time some people were doing bhajans there. Probably we were singing the name. And after that, for 15 years, he did not get a chance to come to Bhagwan. It was only at the age of 22 that he once again came to Bhagwan. Through this magazine, Om Shakti. People were generally talking about Yogi Ramsuratkumar Bhagwan at that time, were just beginning, and he came to know. So at that age, he wanted to go and take his blessings. He promptly presented himself at the doorstep of Bhagwan, only to know, only to see the door locked. Somebody there told him that he had just left for the temple. So he rushed there, and somebody at the entrance of the temple said that he was seen seated at the shrine of Lord Ganesha near the flagstaff of the temple. So he rushed there, but in vain. Bhagwan was not to be found there. And somebody told him, the pujari had come out at the time, and he said that he saw him seated near the temple tank. So this boy of 22 years rushed there. So the more and more he came to know, he came to look for him, but not found him. The greater became his eagerness to see him. So again he rushed to the temple tank, only to be told that Swami had already left. Now that kindled his eagerness even more, that he was determined not to return home without his darshan. So he once again walked through the lane where Bhagwan was residing, and to his great delight he found the door without lock. So Venugopal was standing outside. Swami was seated inside the veranda, and Shri Venugopal gestured to him from outside whether he could come inside. Nobody would gesture like that. Nobody would have the guts to do it. But Shri Venugopal was yet to know more about Bhagwan. At that time it seemed very natural that he gestured to him from outside whether he could come in. And Bhagwan took it very casually, asked him to come in. When he was seated there, Bhagwan blessed him for his welfare and then left him. Soon after that, he came across an article in the magazine once again the magazine called Om Shakti. The editor of the magazine was also drawn to Bhagwan and enjoyed his blessings. So he did not hesitate to put any article on Bhagwan. Now there was this article by Dr. M.S. Udayamurthy. He would write about the human mind in great clinical analysis and expose the corners of the mind that were still unknown to people or unresearched. It was mostly psychology, and he had written in that article in Tamil that once he was going through some road in Israel, and there he came across a board that belonged to the government. It was a government announcement, well written on the board, which said, a poet was composing poems in the vicinity, and the vehicles were not disturbed by sounding the horn. Do not sound the horn. A poet is composing a poem here. What a statement. Dr. Udayamurthy was overwhelmed when he saw this board because it showed a certain social awareness and responsibility recognized by the government itself and acting on it. Immediately he thought about India and was wondering if it was ever possible in India. He remembered in the article going after having darshan of Bhagwan, when he came out, he saw the condition outside the house of Bhagwan in Sannidhi Street House. There was a gutter which served as the public convenience. There was such filth floating in it and such bad smell coming out of it. So much so he could not tolerate it. He went straight to the municipality and made a request there. He even offered money to some worker employed by the municipality to clean up the place outside the residence of Bhagwan. But the municipality said, no, there is no need for your offering money. We will do it ourselves. That was great. He agreed happily and left. But nothing ever changed despite the promise of the municipality. The place continued to be filthy. Of course, there was one exception. Somebody had put up a board there on the wall of the chariot mandap. Do not dirty the place. That's all was written there. He did not say why. Like it said in Israel, a poet is composing a poem, so do not sound the horn. Here no reason was given, simply do not dirty the place. And nobody bothered with it, and everything was going on as before. If anything, it was only worse. Now when Shri Venugopal read this article, he was very impressed. He came to the spot and saw this board And it struck him that the board did not explain why. He felt that he should put up another board there, explaining why it should not be dirtied. There was also a desire in his heart that if he put up such a board there, Dr. M.S. Udayamurthy, a very popular writer at that time, he would come to know about it. He would come to know Shri Venugopal's name also, and in appreciation of the gesture of Shri Venugopal, he might write about Venugopal in the magazines. No money was involved on the part of Venugopal, but he would get popular. This was also a desire at the back of his mind, that it would be well appreciated by Dr. M.S. Udayamurthy. So immediately he got a board prepared. He wrote, "An incarnation of God lives here. Do not dirty the place." A reincarnation of God lives here. Do not dirty the place. So when the board was complete, he took it happily to the chariot mandap, and on the wall facing the lane, he nailed it to the wall. While he was doing that, while he was hammering on the nail, the attendant, the then attendant of Bhagwan, Shashi, saw that. The next day, Shri Venugopal joined the queue outside Bhagwan's place. There were about 10 people before him, and they were going one by one inside. So Bhagwan was doing this one by one spiritual ministry. So everyone was coming out. When one was coming out, the other was going in. And then suddenly, there were just 2 or 3 people. Bhagwan came out. And Sri Shashi pointed to Venugopal and said something to Bhagwan, and Bhagwan was nodding his head. Now it was Venugopal began to tremble. Suddenly a panic seized him, and he thought, we do not know what Swami would say. Maybe it is an act of impertinence, in which case, what would Swami do? He was really afraid. And what was more, Bhagwan called him in. Now he was visibly trembling. And Bhagwan made him sit by his side. So close, his trembling only increased. Now there were some thoughts were racing through his mind, some negative thoughts. Why would he do this? What is he going to do? I do not know what I did is right or wrong. But Bhagwan had such an expression of love on his face. He made him sit really close, that his thigh was touching Shri Venugopal. And what was more, Bhagwan took his left hand and put it on his right thigh and closed it with his right hand. Soon he pulled out a cigarette and started to smoke. Bhagwan asked him, Tambi means brother, younger brother. Bhagwan often addressed people like that. Tambi, Do you have faith in God? Yes, Swami. Do you know there are people who have no faith in God? Venugopal did not know what to say. Of course he knew, but he didn't think of it much. Then Bhagwan added, you see, 6 years back, there was a man, a mendicant, who was collecting flowers for the puja of Arunachaleshwara. One day, he was all of a sudden surrounded by 3 or 4 college students. And they began to beat him up, pushed him down, and used their legs, foot, with the boots. They kicked him violently, saying, mocking all the time, show us the God for whom you are collecting all these flowers. Where is God? Show us God. Until he became unconscious. They tortured him, mocking at his faith in God. After this, Bhagwan said, Thambi, those people are still living around. There are people, more people now, who do not have faith in God, who mock at people who have. And what is more, they also indulge in violence. Now, the board that you have put up there, what does it say? Bhagwan asked him in all innocence. And Venugopal repeated it, saying that a reincarnation of God is living here. Please do not dirty the place. Then Bhagwan smiled and said, Thambi, how much did you spend for that? Venugopal said, 25 rupees, Swami. Oh, at the time, Shri Ganeshan of Ramanashram had come there. He was helping Swami. Swami was talking in English and Venugopal didn't understand. So Shri Ganeshan was translating it for him. So Bhagwan turned to Ganeshan and said, do you know he has spent 25 rupees for this board? Now this beggar doesn't want it there anymore. What to do? And then he turned to Venugopal and said, please go, remove that and bring it over here. So Venugopal understood that Bhagwan didn't want it there anymore for the reasons that he expressed. So he went out and brought it back promptly. Now Bhagwan took the board in his lap and began to stroke it with such love and tenderness several times from one end to the other. All the time he kept saying, do you know Ganesha? Venugopal has spent 25 rupees for this. And then again he would start stroking it from one end to the other. At the end of which Bhagwan handed it over to Venugopal and said, Venugopal, you can take it home, you can keep it there. This beggar appreciates what you have done, but then this beggar cannot afford to have it there. There is no need. Not that he was afraid of these violent rogues, but because Bhagwan said, Ganesha, if these people come to see this board, they would start giving trouble to this beggar. Ganesha, you know that this beggar is doing father's work. then father's work will be affected. If they did something to this beggar, father's work would come to a stop. This beggar cannot afford it, Ganesha. This beggar has to continue to do father's work. It's very important. So this beggar has asked him to take it away. Shri Venugopal has written in the Ashram magazine that the board that he prepared with a desire for fame, because Dr. M.S. Udayamurthy would come to know who has put it there, and he would be all appreciation, and he might write about Venugopal in the magazine. Of course, it was two-pronged. One was, it would help keep the place clean. The other was, Dr. M.S. Udayamurthy would write about Venugopal. So Venugopal knew now. No article on Venugopal in any of the magazines would come from Dr. M.S. Udayamurthy. It was a very silly desire. But he said, because it was stroked by Bhagwan with such tenderness and love, it has found its place in his puja room till today. They do puja to that. This is a glimpse of Bhagwan's father's work. Bhagwan said, anything that disturbs father's work, this beggar cannot afford. It's very important that this beggar continues to do father's work. Now the same Bhagwan had said to us, when you chant the name, it not only helps yourself, your relatives immediately around, and the world, and my father's work, this beggar's work. He called it this beggar's work. Though we do not know what was exactly involved in his father's work, we understand the importance that he gave to that. I remember in Sudama, Bhagwan asked me to read a book called The Secret Doctrine, a theosophical book written by Madam Blavatsky. It was all about the secrets, the subtle secrets of the universe, of the cosmos, the various planes of consciousness. And there was a mention of the human races that appeared from time to time to time. There was a talk about the fifth human race, the sixth human race, etc. In the evolution of the earth, the evolution of humanity, when people like Bhagwan, Shri Aurobindo worked specially for immediate upliftment of the consciousness of people, there is a chance for the new race to be more intelligent than the previous races. And that way, every new race which appears every few years will be more and more intelligent. One day, the world may produce a human race, a race of supermen with highly evolved consciousness. Shri Aurobindo was laboring for that, and Bhagwan was also laboring. We do not know the exact, intricate details of the work, but this was the outline given by Bhagwan to Shri Kaylor Badlington and to one or two other Americans who happened to be with him in the early 70s. So now he has given us a chance. When we chant the mantra Yogi Ramsuratkumar given by Bhagwan, let us also be aware that our chanting the mantra is going to help Bhagwan's father's work. How happy Bhagwan would be. Now that Bhagwan is here right in front of us. We shall submit today's prayer at his feet. We have been chanting for 1 hour and have offered all those names, Japa, at the feet of Bhagwan. Now the prayer is, we seek, we invoke a huge grace from Bhagwan to free the entire humanity from the clutches, from the grip of this virulent virus, and bring back a dharmic normalcy in the world. And Bhagwan, kindly remove the panic from the hearts of people and arrest the spread of the disease. Enter the vaccine and make it potent to kill the virus once for all, or any variant of this. And all those brave soldiers who are working in the field, fighting the disease, at the very risk of their own lives, please give them protection